Hi, I'm Quinn Lemley with Secrets of the Stage. This is the place where we pull back the curtains and we dive into the creative process. And today I am so honored and excited to have my friend and the brilliant biographer, writer, Robert Windeler. How are you?
I'm fine.
Yes. Robert is an esteemed writer who has written so many books of all the real Hollywood great. How did you even get started in this?
Well, I've always liked showbiz. I mean, I grew up in an era when the first television came to the house.
Wow. And so what did you watch? What was your first show?
Howdy Doody. I mean,
Howdy Doody.
I was...
Yes.
And a child of rock and roll.
Right.
You know, which came in.
Yes.
And the 50s were a great movie era.
Yes, they were.
And I grew up 12 miles from here, New York. So we came into the theater all the time, from 10 or 11.
But you spent a lot of your career in Hollywood.
Mostly in Hollywood.
Right.
Yeah, I was...
in Beverly Hills.
Well, yeah. Actually, both my home and the office were in Beverly Hills.
Yes.
I was sent there not to cover Hollywood, but just to be a reporter in the West Coast Bureau of Time magazine.
Time, you did Time, Life, what you did? People, every
Us,
big
Family Circle,
yes.
Family Weekly.
Oh my goodness.
And then I did articles for like TV Guide and Ladies Home Journal and one-shots usually.
And were you mainly always interviewing stars, or?
I wouldn't say they were all stars, but they were all mostly in the business, one way or another. Musicians or TV actors or movie stars and recording artists. And at People, it was particularly important because when People started 50 years ago, the magazine was strictly a newsstand sale magazine at first. So who was on the cover was very, very important because that's what sold the magazine for 35 cents.
Wow.
Yeah. And I did 35 covers for them, cover stories, and about 125 stories altogether in 5 years.
That's incredible. So you're doing publications and interviews, but how did you start writing biographies?
Well, actually, before People, I was with Time. That was my first job out there. And I didn't go out to cover Hollywood. I went out to be like the seventh person in a 7-person bureau.
Wow.
So I got, you know, the dregs, whatever was going on, whether I knew anything about it or not. And then Hedda Hopper died suddenly. She had like 400 newspapers as a columnist, and her great rival was Luella Parsons. And she had the other 400
right.
For the column. So with Hedda's death, they were looking desperately for somebody to take over the column. And the LA Times, which was the home base for the column, interviewed and then hired the Time magazine Hollywood correspondent, a woman called Joyce Haber.
Okay.
And I got her job.
But I want to talk about, like, you have so many books. Which one is your first one?
Well, Julie Andrews.
Julie Andrews was the first one?
Yeah, because I got this job at Time, replacing Joyce Haber, who was replacing Hedda Hopper. And there we are.
Wow.
Together. And you can see how young I am.
Wow, you're so handsome. You're still handsome. I love it. Did you have an angle?
No, I think that's a bad idea, actually.
When you're writing a biography, how do you pick the tone and what you keep in and what you take out? I
found what her story was, or what she was
projecting.
Wanting it to be. Yeah.
Do stars do that a lot? I guess people have their own version of their story.
Oh, sure.
Have you ever interviewed anyone and been starstruck, but then you get to know them and don't like them?
Well, I would say the only person I was really starstruck about was Laurence Olivier. And that's partly because nobody got to interview him. He just didn't do interviews at that stage in his life. And for some reason, he agreed to see me, and he was doing a movie in California and staying at a friend's house in Beverly Hills. And
how lovely.
yeah. And we had a rule, besides having the cover be the sales tool for the magazine, it was a picture magazine, and all the pictures were in black and white in those days. We didn't have color, except on the cover. And we wanted to interview the stars and photograph them at home.
Oh, lovely.
Not at the office.
Because you get to know them better
Yeah,
with their
right.
surroundings and their pets.
The photographer and I weren't always there together, but more often than not we were. But even if we weren't, we were in the same house.
Wow.
He's photographed. And of course, Olivier was breaking that rule because his house is in England.
Right.
So, but he was in a house.
My pretend house.
Yeah, he was in a house, and he was ailing. He had the movie was done, and they were cutting it and so on. So he was still there, but he was done acting. And he did the whole interview on a sofa with his legs stretched out.
Wow.
And I thought he was going to fall asleep, but he didn't. And he was so relaxed, he just kept talking, and I kept listening.
Wow.
And sometimes it works out that way.
That's wonderful.
And that was doctor's orders. The doctor said, you've got to, he had a thrombosis in his leg or something. You have to lie down whenever you can, and especially keep your legs out.
Right.
So that's what he was doing.
You have your Burt Lancaster book.
He was difficult.
In what way?
Well, he said things like, why are you writing about movie stars? Why aren't you writing about Ireland, which was hot at the time?
Oh, really?
They were fighting.
Because of the war.
Yeah, there was a war going on. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, if you look at these three books, okay, this is the first.
Julie Andrews.
Now, this is the second. We haven't really talked about Mary Pickford.
Yes, we must.
She was the first movie star. But
Ever. Pickford.
Yeah, second book. This was Shirley Temple, my third book. And in the dust jacket of this book, where there's a biography of me, so he's working on his third book, which he promises will not be about a female goody two-shoes movie star.
Oh, so you were prefacing for
You were
Burt.
So I was changing
Your image.
my image.
Wow. Tell them who Mary Pickford is, because some people might not know.
Well, Mary Pickford she started on the stage at the age of 4, I think. She was a Canadian. She was born in Toronto, although she became America's sweetheart.
Yes.
And her father, whom she adored, sold candy and snacks on riverboats in Canada. Touristy ferry boats, and was killed, died when she was 4.
Wow.
Of an accident, an explosion of some kind. And so she, in effect, went to work to support the family.
Like Rita did.
Her mother and her sister and her brother.
Wow.
And that was on stage, and that was in Canada. And it was on something called the kerosene circuit, because the stage lighting was kerosene.
Kerosene.
Lanterns.
Oh, very, very safe.
So,
Right.
And
this is the silent era.
well, yeah. I mean, we're not even into movies yet. But,
Right.
But on stage, she played little girls, which she was. But then they decided to come to New York, and she did stage here, and they came on D.W. Griffith. All the movies were made in New York.
I know people don't realize that we had such a robust.
Yeah, in the 10s.
Yes.
From 1900 to 1910, 1912. Movies were made here, and they were all one reel, and they were all black and white, and they were all silent.
Right.
And she stumbled on D.W. Griffith.
It
right
just
here
takes one
on
person.
14th Street.
Wow.
And Lillian Gish and her sister Dorothy, who became movie stars a little later, and were friends of Mary's from the stage, went to see her and at Griffith Studio and said to their mother, Mary, must not be doing well to kind of reduce herself to flickers.
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 Oh.
And on the contrary, of course, Mary was doing very well. And her movies were the ones that people put the most nickels in to see into the Nickelodeon.
The Nickelodeon. She started United Artists, didn't she?
Yes.
So that's where her story is so important.
She and Douglas Fairbanks, to whom she did get married.
I knew they got married.
Her second husband. Not her last, but her second husband.
Well, she was just rehearsing.
And Charlie Chaplin, we all know who Charlie Chaplin was. And D.W. Griffith, famous director who directed Mary, and others, Lillian Gish and so on. Charlie, Douglas, Mary founded United Artists, the four of them.
Wow. And that was in the 30s? Or?
That was in the 30s, in the mid-30s. And she and Douglas had their own studio. There's a Pickford Fairbanks studio on the lot of United Artists.
Oh, really?
But it was a separate, yeah. She was...
so she was producing or...
Well, both.
She was?
She was, producing, but also kind of running the business. She was very shrewd about money. I mean, she and her mother used to go to the movie theaters, even when it was just one-reelers, and count the people in line to make sure that they got the nickels that they were entitled to.
And how long did she live?
Well, she lived to be 86.
Wow.
But she stayed in bed the whole last 15 years of her life. She said, people remember me as a little girl with long golden curls, and I don't want them to see me as a little old lady. And she never, went out or was photographed again.
Wow, that's tragic.
Yeah.
Sad.
Yeah.
Shirley Temple. Tell me about Shirley. Let's talk about Shirley.
Mary did a lot of, and I'm talking about Mary again, because she did Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm, for example. And then Shirley did Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm. And there were others that Shirley remade of Pickford's movies. So there was a bond between them and a similarity of the audience. Shirley was a real little girl, not an older woman playing a real little girl. She was really a little girl. And she was the top box office star in the mid and late 30s.
Why do you think?
Well, it was the Depression.
The Depression. Prohibition.
Movies and Prohibition. The movies were like a nickel still, or 15 cents tops, for double feature and so on. And so even the poorest people could go to movies. And if they wanted to take their children, there was Shirley.
Right.
And Rin Tin Tin. And other child stars. And
Daryl Zanuck wrote for Rin Tin Tin.
Yeah, right. And then, of course, Lassie came on later. But Shirley, when she grew up, she made a few movies as
an adult,
as a late teenager and a real adult. But either she was a supporting player, or it wasn't really about her so much as it was the male lead or the family or something. She wasn't.
She went to Washington and went into politics?
She married for the second time. She married a movie actor the first time. Well, he wasn't a movie actor when she married him, but he became a movie actor, John Agar, and they had a child, and they worked together a couple times. And she was 17 when they got married.
Wow.
So
can you imagine being married at 17?
And he wasn't. He
crazy.
was 32 or something. And she married to get away from not being a movie star, and she'd gone to a high school, prep school for the first time because she was always taught on set by tutors.
Right.
And she was rebellious, and she married him. And then they got divorced. And then she met the love of her life, Charles Black.
And who is Charles Black?
Charles Black, his family owned California Light and Power. He didn't know who she was. They met in Hawaii, and both on vacation, but not together. I mean, she with her parents, and he was, and they hit it off, as they say.
Oh.
And she got into politics in a way. She was a funny kind of Republican. She was a Republican domestically, very finance conscious, and so. But she was an internationalist, liberal, in world affairs.
Interesting.
Richard Nixon, who was president, appointed her to be the job that Nikki Haley had.
For the UN
representative, cabinet member for the, and she did that brilliantly.
Wow.
She had this photographic memory. She could remember as a movie kid and actor all her life. She could remember everybody's lines, not just her lines.
So she,
but
totally photographic.
Yeah, I mean, if they made a mistake, she'd correct them. You know, and so, and she did that at the UN. I mean, she read everybody's, you know, boring treatises, which nobody else was reading, and she remembered everything.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was. And so that was that. And then Nixon was going to appoint her ambassador to Ghana in Africa.
Why Ghana?
Ghana was, among other things, a matriarchy. Women ran the economy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is it still that way?
I'm not sure. I haven't been there lately, but I don't hear about it as much as it used to be. Yeah, women ran the business world.
Wow.
In Ghana at the time.
That's great.
And they loved having a woman ambassador from the United States.
And former movie star?
Well, they didn't know that.
Were people shocked when they found out?
Her movies had not made it to Ghana. I mean, they'd made it to Europe, but had not made it to sub-Saharan Africa. And then they found out, of course, and that was just even more delightful.
Wow. How long did she work in politics?
Well, she stayed in Ghana for a while. Well, Nixon then resigned. He was going to appoint her.
Oh, so
he
she
resigned.
didn't go.
No, she did go, but it was President Ford who restored her appointment.
I see.
So she actually was in the Ford administration, not the Nixon administration.
Interesting.
And she stayed till Ford lost, you know.
And then what did she do with
She
the
came
rest?
back to Washington and was chief of protocol for a while at the end of the Ford administration. He'd already lost the election, but was still president. And she wanted to stay on for Jimmy Carter, but that didn't happen, and so she came back to California.
And what did she do
Well,
for
then
the
she
rest?
started having grandchildren, and
having fun,
yeah.
right? Having a good time.
And Charles, who stayed in the background, her husband, for the rest of his life.
Wow, what a story!
You know, made money. He went into aquaculture, food from the sea, and they had a lovely life.
How lovely!
And now she didn't want me to do a book. Not me personally, but she didn't want anybody to do a book because she was going to write her memoirs. I was interested in doing her for People magazine. So I called her and, well, no, she tried to find out if I was the one who was, you know, circling her to do a book. She called the San Francisco bureau chief of People, and she had to say yes. I mean, she's not going to lie. So when I talked to her, she said, well, I'm going to do my own book. I'm doing it. I'm working on it now. But anyway, she This is in my new book. I hope I'm not giving too much away.
No, you're teasing us.
Teasing.
You have so many stories.
I want to tease.
Yes.
Yeah. This is one of those times, and of course, again, we have to do it at her house. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the times I had the photographer with me, because he was a Northern California photographer, whom I didn't know, really.
Right.
And rather than send somebody up from LA, because I'm already being sent up from LA, we got a local guy, and he and I met before we went to her house at a restaurant somewhere. And I said, I've never done this before, but I really do want to do this book. And I'm not sure she's going to do it. And I need a picture with her. Now, I never did that.
Well, there's a first for everything, right?
And he was into it in a big way. I mean, he just couldn't.
Picture says 1,000
Well, she was on to him, and she was on to me. And I don't know if I can find them quickly, but
I'll put it in the post. I'll find it.
Yeah.
And do
well,
a
there's
picture.
Mary and Shirley together. And the caption, this was in Life magazine, and it was called Two Has-Beens, which they literally were at the time, 1940.
They look great in the picture.
They look wonderful.
Amazing.
And they were not unhappy.
I love it. I wanted to, what were you going to show me?
Well, I was going to try to show you how she dodged me and how it's in the biography. All right. We'll do it later.
We'll do it
but
later.
It's cute. I mean, there are a couple of pictures where one, I'm sitting on the sofa interviewing her, and she's standing as far away as she can, so we're not in the same picture.
Right, not in the same.
But we are in the same picture.
That's brilliant.
There's one where she's showing me how to play chess, and it's my back, so you don't know it's me.
Well, with your stance, I think that.
Well, I was sitting. She was standing.
Okay.
Well, that was the thing. I was sitting, she was standing. And anything to keep talking to me, but getting away
around,
from the photographer.
Oh, I was in London last month, and I met the fabulous Elaine Page, and you have interviewed her.
I have indeed, for a Sondheim Review and for Backstage.
Oh, how wonderful. What was she like? Tell your story.
Well, she was great. I'd been a fan, and I had seen
amazing.
her shows in London, all her Andrew Lloyd Webber shows that she
Evita.
Introduced.
Cats,
you know,
yes.
Don't Cry for Me, Argentina, and so on. And so I was very happy to be doing it. And she had flown in the night before, and we were doing it in the lobby of her hotel
Was
right
that
after
awkward?
a flight from London the night before. She slept a little bit. And I thought, this isn't going to work. She was wonderful.
Wow.
She was
she's very witty and
bright and alert and into it, and
she's writing her memoirs
well, that's
right
what
now.
I have heard recently.
You know, I have to tell you as we wrap up, these stories, these biographies, well, you saw Burlesque to Broadway, but my relationship with my Granny Lemley, she lived behind me, and every day we would watch the movies and we would read biographies of all the stars, and that was our relationship. And we acted like we knew these people. I mean, we just, and that's the love of, my love of Hollywood and the classic films. But when she died, I was at NYU, and a box came, and it was all the books that I had given her and I had signed, and it was our whole life together through biographies and through these stories. And so these books are just so important, and they keep us connected from the past into the future.
I'm glad you feel that. I didn't know that about you, but I'm glad to know it.
Yes. And how are people going to know, when is your book going to come out, or where will they find it?
I really don't know that, because I have literally interviewed hundreds of people, and they can't all be on the book.
You have stories of Pia Zadora,
Eva
Gabor, and then Liz Taylor, and you traveled to Russia during...
Sophia Loren. Yeah, there were wonderful stories, and I can't tell them all. That's
well,
the hard
maybe you'll
part.
have to write 2 books.
Well, then there's another, I mean, a lot of these people have left us, but a surprising number have not. And like Rod Stewart is still working.
Oh, that's right.
I did
Yes.
a people cover on him. And a lot of people that I interviewed are still around.
Well, they can Google you.
Well, yeah, and there's a thought that maybe Barry Manilow is another one, Wayne Newton, and Linda Ronstadt, and Dolly Parton's still with us and working and so on. And there's a thought that I might try to re-interview some of them.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
It would be,
Then and now.
but it's going to take another year beyond what I was already
Well, you're teasing us, Robert.
planning.
And so we'll just keep the conversation going until your book releases and they can come
Well,
in, they can get
fine
it.
with me.
Do you have a title for it yet, or
I do.
You're not telling?
Well, I'll tell you,
Okay.
and they'll hear me.
It's Secrets of the Stage.
It's a good mistake. It's called "It's Not All About You," which is a double-edged sword. The book is not all about them, and it's not all about me.
I like that.
So it's not my memoirs or my autobiography, but it is a memoir of a particular aspect of my life, which is interviewing people like this for 50 years.
It's wonderful. Robert, thank you so much. I know this book is going to be marvelous.
Well, I hope so.
It will be.
And these are around. People can find these.
On Amazon.
On Amazon, if they haven't found them.
They will find them.
Yeah.
We're going to get the word out.
Okay.
Great. I'm Quinn Lemley with Secrets of the Stage. We air the first Sunday of every month at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time on mnn.org, Channel 4, or you can visit me at quinnlemley.com, subscribe to my newsletter, and be part of my community. I'd love to see you there and see you at my concerts. And you can Instagram me at Quinn-Lemley.